everybody and welcome to my channel. My name is Miranda and today we are talking about Coachella. So I have my Coachella tips organized into what to know before you go, what to bring, and also tips for inside of Coachella. So first is what to know before you go, and we need to start at the very beginning, which is getting your ticket. So getting a ticket for Coachella is not the easiest thing in the world to do. Tickets go on sale at exactly 11 o'clock in the morning, and you need to be on that website at 11 o'clock. You need to have already made an account. So make sure you go onto the website beforehand, make an account, then you'll log in, and at exactly 11 o'clock, the system will put your name into a random place in line. And unless you're lucky, you're going to be sitting there waiting for hours. So what I do is I just open my computer and I get my spot in line and I let it sit there for a few hours while I do something else. And of course I come back and check it, because once it's your turn to go, you only have about 10 minutes to complete it or else your spot in line is lost. It's not very easy. I tried for years before I was actually able to get a ticket through the website, and I was finally able to do it by booking pre-sale. So if you know you want to go to Coachella and you're not super worried about the lineup, you know you want to go regardless of the lineup, you could actually book your ticket in June at the pre-sale, and it's the same thing. You need to log into your account, sit there on the computer. I still had to wait for hours, however, I was able to get that ticket. So there's my tip before you go. To get a ticket, book pre-sale. But then other things to know is that you can't stay as far away as Palm Springs and actually just get a shuttle pass that'll pick you up and take you to Coachella. And if you didn't know, Coachella is not in Palm Springs. It's pretty far away from it. I would also say book your accommodation as far in advance as possible if you're not camping. This is pretty easy to do even if you don't know the exact dates for Coachella, because they're always the second and third weekend in April. So what a lot of people do is they'll book ahead of time and they'll book both weekends to try to get the best deals on accommodation and also as close as they can to Coachella itself. Then if you end up not getting a ticket or you book a different weekend, you could always just cancel, because most of the time you could cancel for free. However, if you do this, make sure you check. So next, you should actually build your schedule before you go. There is a Coachella app. You could download it to your phone and you could build your schedule for what artists you want to see. This is really convenient because there's a ton of artists and a ton of stages, and without the app, it's really hard to keep track of who's playing where. I also recommend making playlists before you go to Coachella, and this should be done maybe even months ahead of time. And as you're driving to and from work or just cleaning, you could put on these playlists. That way you start getting to know more artists, more songs, and you're just feeling hyped and ready for Coachella. And definitely include artists that maybe you've never heard of before or you don't know that many of their songs. Because that's what Coachella is about. It's all about the music. It's really fun to see your favorite bands, but it's also fun to experience new artists. And very lastly, for before you go, when you're thinking about who you're going with, make sure that it's a good match. Because a lot of times people go to Coachella with the wrong people and they end up not having as good of a time. For example, some people like to go to Coachella the entire time, from opening to close. Other people may not want to do that. They might only want to go at nighttime. Or some people might like to be in the crowd, in the front, jumping, screaming, and then other people might want to be in the back, sitting down on the grass. So in order to have the best possible experience, just make sure who you're going with is going to vibe with you and the way you want to experience Coachella. When you're planning your trip, I would also say consider camping, because it is a lot of fun. Moving into what to bring. So my top recommendation is to bring a warm change of clothes, because Coachella is in the desert, which means it's hot during the day, but it's also very cold at nighttime. So you will get cold if you're camping, especially make sure you bring warm clothes to sleep in. But even if you're just there, you're going to stay there until like midnight possibly. So make sure you're bringing a warm change of clothes. I actually would go back to my camp spot every single night and I would change and then go back into Coachella. We're heading back to our place because every evening I come back and I change because it just gets too cold at nighttime. At least bring a jacket and maybe even some pants to change into. The next thing you need is a portable phone charger because you're using your phone a lot at Coachella, you're recording people, you're taking pictures, it's just out a lot and you don't want your phone to die, so make sure you have a portable charger. Bandanas can also be really useful, so consider bringing a bandana, especially if you're going during weekend 2 because most of the grass is gone by weekend 2 and it's very dusty, so it can help you breathe. Hats. A lot of people really like to wear hats to Coachella. They find it to be a really good accessory, and although they are very cute, keep in mind that if you're going like into the crowd and you're going to be in the center, in the front, the hat might be in a lot of people's ways, or if you're jumping, like people might hit you if you're like full on in the crowd. Not saying don't wear them, just something to think about. I also think a hydro pack is a necessity when you're at Coachella. They do have free fill-up stations, but it's a lot easier to have your water on your back than in your hand, and it lasts for a lot longer. Next, you should definitely bring some tissues with you. So the bathrooms at Coachella are all porta potties and they always run out of toilet paper. So there could be a really long line for the last 2 stalls that have actual toilet paper in them because the rest ran out. So in order to cut the line and be able to use one of those bathrooms, just bring your own tissues. Plus, eventually they will all run out of toilet paper, so if you like toilet paper, make sure to bring tissues. Sunscreen is also very important because it gets hot. And lastly, you might want to consider bringing a fan. I saw a lot of people with fans when I was there and it looked like a great way to stay cool. Now let's move into tips inside of Coachella. So the first thing I want to note is that Coachella can be a bit, not dangerous, but theft is common. So this morning our car won't start. Jan lost his wallet and we were robbed last night. Do not put your phone in your back pocket. There is a very high chance that a pickpocket will come by and take your phone. The amount of people who had lost their phone is insane. And sure, a lot of people just, I'm sure, lost it, but there's also a lot of pickpockets, especially in the crowds. Whenever you're in a crowded area, just expect pickpockets. That's not just Coachella, that's just crowded areas and touristy things in general. But it was insane, like insane the amount of phones that were stolen. In campsites, people were going around and stealing phones. They would go around, they would unzip your tent, like even if you're in there sleeping and like reach in and take your phone. It was a very big thing at 2019 Coachella, so I'd say be careful with your phone. When I was in the car changing, somebody came in and tried to steal from us. Like, I saw her come in and unzip the tent. You also need to know that Coachella Valley can have bad cell phone service, especially on the grounds. So if you decide to separate from your friends, just be very careful because there is a chance you might not meet back up with them until later that night. Sometimes it could be very hard to find each other again, especially when your phones stop working. I think you should also consider what shoes you're wearing to Coachella, especially the ladies out there. I know that it's really stylish and you want your super cute outfit, so you might think about wearing boots or little booties that have a heel. And if you decide to do this and you're spending pretty much all day at Coachella, I would say at least pack a change of shoes. Put them in your backpack for maybe later at night when your feet hurt too bad. Remember, it's 3 days. Your feet need to last for 3 days. Coachella also really surprised me with their food. They actually have really decent food. However, it is really expensive. Do expect about $20 per plate at Coachella. So my next tip has to do with Coachella during the day. It does get very hot, so a few things you could do would be to walk around and find the rooms with AC. There's actually a few rooms that you could go into that do have AC. One has music playing and there's dancing in a dark air-conditioned room. There's also another one where they're playing music and you just got to sit down and like watch the screen for a while. And I think there's more rooms than that. And then there's also this water spring room. So you go in, it's outside, but there's like water misting at you. So there's a few different places to relax and cool off when you're there during the day. Remember that Coachella is a marathon, not a sprint. It is okay to take these breaks, especially if you're there during the day, to cool off and just relax, maybe get some ice cream. Or maybe just show up later if that's what you want to do. However, if you're coming in the evening on most days, I would recommend coming early on at least one of the days to explore more of the grounds. Another thing you need to be aware of is that at nighttime, it gets super crowded.
It is insane here right now. So we just went to go get water and I felt like I was being pushed around for like an hour.
So the bathrooms and the hydration stations on the very far side of Coachella will usually have shorter lines. Don't even try to use the ones that are like in the center of everything because the lines are super long, and as we talked about earlier, there won't be any toilet paper.
I have to go to the bathroom, but the line for the bathroom was insane.
And it could be pretty hard to walk sometimes at certain parts of the night. So just expect large crowds, which I'm sure you were expecting anyway because it's Coachella. However, it is insanely crowded at nighttime.
It's too much.
My very last tip is the next morning when Coachella is all over, you should try to leave as early as you can to avoid traffic. You will hit major traffic if you leave later in the day or in the afternoon. So just try to get out as early as possible. And that is all of my tips that I have for Coachella. I hope you learned something. I hope you found this video useful, and I hope you have an incredible time at Coachella. If you do plan to camp or you're considering camping, make sure you subscribe because the next video will be a tip guide for camping in particular. And also make sure you check out my vlogs from Coachella. Thank you for watching. Bye.